Information for the student. This content was originally authored through a collaboration with the Texas Education Agency, TEA. It is presented here with modifications, including updates to align with the 2019 course and exam description for AP Biology. These resources are available to all verified instructors free of charge at the following hyperlink: https://openstacks.org/details/books/biology-app-courses?instructor% 20 To the student. Congratulations on being accepted into, and having the courage to take, an advanced placement biology class. You are about to delve deep into some very detailed biology concepts. This lab manual aims to help you better understand these concepts through hands-on experiences in the laboratory. In addition, it will challenge you to critically think about biology concepts, scientific methods, and experimental design as part of its inquiry-based framework. Inquiry-based learning involves challenging yourself to learn through self-discovery. Instead of simply presenting you with facts to memorize, this manual encourages you to ask questions about the material that you will then answer through your own exploration. By creating your own hypotheses and then planning and carrying out your own experiments on a variety of topics in the lab manual, you will hopefully learn biology by satisfying your own curiosity. In this AP lab manual, the inquiry-based structure includes the following components. 1. Pre-assessment section. This section contains a list of questions that you should answer before starting each activity. These are meant to get you thinking about the main concepts of each lab. The pre-assessment questions are designed to connect the concepts in each lab to your experiences in daily life. Whether you realize it or not, you observe biology constantly in the world around you. Therefore, you are likely familiar with more biology topics than you realize. The pre-assessment questions are meant to tap into the biology knowledge you already have and apply it to what you will learn in each lab. As a result, your answers to these questions may not be graded, and you will benefit greatly by discussing your answers as a class. This also allows your teacher to measure how familiar you and your classmates are with the material. 2. Structured inquiry. In this section, you will be introduced to an experimental system by doing a well-laid-out experiment with detailed steps. This section is meant to guide you in using the equipment in a safer activity before planning and performing an entire experiment. However, you will still be posing questions, predictions, and hypotheses in the structured inquiry. You will also critically think about how to achieve the most accurate and reliable results during the structured inquiry in preparation for creating your own experiments in the guided inquiry. 3. Guided inquiry. In the guided inquiry, you will use the familiarity you gained during the structured inquiry to perform your own self-investigation. The experimental setup of the guided inquiries is often identical to that used in the structured inquiry. Therefore, you will be working with equipment and methods that you have already tried in the structured inquiry. This time, you will pick a variable to study, create a hypothesis, and fully design an experiment to test your hypothesis. You will determine which equipment and methods you should use to collect accurate and precise data. Once you have planned your experiment, be sure to have your plan approved by your teacher, who will also ensure that your plan is safe and appropriate for the equipment available. Finally, you will analyze your own data and make conclusions based on your experimental evidence. If time allows, you will then refine and rerun your experiments or test additional hypotheses that you find interesting. In many ways, the guided inquiry step is meant to engage you in the same processes that scientists have used to discover information about our world and universe. Components of structured and guided inquiry sections. To ensure that an inquiry-based approach is implemented in each activity, both the structured and guided inquiries also contain each of the following steps at least once. 1. Hypothesize, predict. This is where you will be creating hypotheses, which are questions or predictions about what will happen during an experiment. Be sure that your hypotheses are clear, specific, and testable. 1.1. Good hypothesis. The volume of water in a container will be higher when a 2-gram mass is added compared to when a 1-gram mass is added. 1.2. Poor hypothesis. The volume of water in this experiment will increase as larger objects are added. 1.3. Good hypothesis. The speed of a vehicle traveling down the 30 degrees ramp will be lower than the speed of the vehicle traveling down the 60 degrees ramp. 1.4. Poor hypothesis. The vehicle will travel fast down the ramp with the greater amount of slant. 2. Student-led planning. Each inquiry contains at least one step where you and your lab partners will plan how to properly conduct your experiment. During the structured inquiry, you will generally plan proper techniques for getting the best results possible using the available equipment and described methods. As with many things in life, 2 or more heads are often better than one, and you and your group members should come to a consensus on a plan before proceeding. This will lay the groundwork for the guided inquiry. You and your group will need to plan an entire experiment in this step. 3. Critical analysis. This step typically occurs near the end of each inquiry. Here you will critically analyze your results, judge their validity, and explain why your hypotheses were supported or not supported by your results. You will also suggest ways that your experimental methods could have been improved to get more accurate or precise data, as well as determine new questions to ask related to your results. A note about your notebook. As part of the challenge of taking an AP course, this lab manual does not contain data tables where you record your findings. Therefore, you will be required to design your own tables, answer assessments, and do any other note-taking in a separate notebook. You should use the same notebook for biology lab throughout the year. This will allow you to easily refer back to previous labs when you need to reference earlier content. Do not put non-biology content in your biology notebook, as your teacher may collect and grade your notebook throughout the year. Components of a lab. Main introduction. Each lab contains an introductory section under the title. This introduces the big picture concepts of the lab as well as how they connect to everyday life. They will also introduce the pioneering physicists and experiments that led to our current knowledge of each lab topic. Relevant equations that you will use in the labs are also introduced here, including definitions of their variables. Many of the labs involve measuring the value of these variables so that you can later perform your own calculations. Please read the lab and activity introductions carefully before your lab period. Then, before the lab starts, ask your teacher about any concepts of which you are unsure. In this lab you will learn. This section presents learning objectives for the lab. These are the takeaway points that you should be able to explain or perform after doing the activities. It is helpful to read these objectives before each lab to prime yourself for what you will learn. It is then helpful to reread these at the end of each lab to ensure that you have achieved all of the learning objectives. Activities. Each lab is divided into 2 to 3 activities. Please note that your teacher may or may not have you perform all activities in a given lab, so pay close attention to your teacher's instructions throughout the lab. Safety precautions. These bullet points list important safety issues that will prevent injury to yourself or your classmates during the lab activities. Each activity has its own safety precautions section. Please read and understand all safety precautions before beginning each activity. For this activity you will need section. This section lists all of the materials needed for each activity. Before you start the lab, make sure that you can identify all items on this list. Also, pay close attention to your teacher's instructions, as you may be using different equipment for these labs than those on this list. Activity introduction. These are short introductions relevant to specific activities. As with the main introduction, the activity introductions may contain formulas, equations, or other background information needed to successfully carry out and understand the activities. As with the main introduction, please read these introductions carefully before your lab period. Then, before the lab starts, ask your teacher about any concepts of which you are unsure. Process steps. These are the steps you will perform to carry out the activities. Please read through all of the process steps and set up diagrams before starting step 1. Ask your teacher if there are any steps you don't understand prior to starting. This will help you perform the activities correctly the first time, preventing the need to redo activities or having to leave your laboratory period with unusable data. Assessments. The assessment sections provide questions that test your knowledge of the lab material. Your teacher will instruct you on how to submit answers to the assessments for grading. College Board, CB, Standard Alignment. College Board standards are summarized in a table format at the beginning of each lab. The College Board's AP Biology course and exam description was used to provide this information. In addition, Standards tags are found on the assessments, allowing you to quickly identify which standard is addressed by each question.